This episode is brought to you by DistroKid. Hey, have you heard? I'm coming back to give guided tours at the Punk Rock Museum in Las Vegas, Friday, May 2nd, Saturday, May 3rd, and Sunday, May 4th. 2 tours each day, one at 12:30 p.m. and one at 4 p.m. Get your tickets now at thepunkrockmuseum.com. The Punk Rock Museum, where you can expect the unexpected. Like the time I saw Fletcher from Pennywise and Noodles from The Offspring randomly hanging out on a Tuesday afternoon. Or Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers having a casual stroll through. Or the time myself and a group walked around the corner to find Fat Mike grilling a married couple about their, never mind. Join me Cinco de Mayo weekend, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, as I guide you through 5 decades of punk rock memorabilia, flyers, musical instruments, stage gear, outfits, literature, and so much more. Tickets available now at thepunkrockmuseum.com. Hey everybody, today's guest is Michael Imperioli, guitarist and lead vocalist for the New York indie rock band ZOPA. Together we break down the writing, recording, and inspiration behind the brand new single, A Still Life, taken from their 2025 album, Diamond Vehicle. Michael said the idea for A Still Life came to him while vacationing in Sicily, the hypnotic opening guitar riff being the first part he wrote. I mentioned to Michael that it's hard for me to point out an exact influence in this track. Just when I think I'm onto something, the band takes a left turn, and something else catches my ear. When I asked about his musical influences, they were, as I thought, a little bit of a lot. 60s rock, pop and soul, to 70s rock and punk, to new wave, post-punk, and indie. The band is a trio and prefer to keep things sparse while recording. They're hesitant to record parts for songs that they can't replicate live. The basic tracks were all cut live, with producer John Agnello, and you can definitely feel that in the performance. There's a push-pull thing going on. It's loose, but by all means, not sloppy. Indie rock at its finest. So for all this and a stolen lyric on a subway, don't touch that dial.
Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast.
Michael, how's it going?
I'm good, Chris. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for sitting in on the show. I really appreciate it. You know, I've listened to this song, A Still Life, as I do when I break them down here on the show, probably 40 or 50 times.
Oh my God. More than me, maybe.
The past couple days, and I can't put my finger on this song in terms of influences. And that's kind of where I want to start with this episode, because I'm hearing everything from 60s psychedelic Jefferson Airplane up to 90s alternative stuff like Pavement. And every time I think I'm onto something like, ooh, this sounds like this, you take a left turn with this track. So tell us a little bit about your musical influences.
You know, my influences go back to like the Beatles when I discovered as a kid, and Queen, and I liked Paul McCartney and Wings a lot when I was a kid. And I didn't really get into punk or post-punk until like the early 80s, after high school. And I started listening to things like Echo and the Bunnymen and REM and U2 and then earlier stuff like The Clash and Lou Reed and all the New York punks. I saw a lot of bands in the 80s and 90s, like in New York. Galaxy 500 was a big influence on me in terms of starting the band and what we could do as a trio. I really liked Pavement. You know, Pavement was a band that I really liked a lot. And My Bloody Valentine and Dinosaur Jr., Sonic Youth. My personal influences cover a big span of time, in rock at least. But it's hard to say, you know, it's not like when you're writing a song, you're like, oh, I want to write this type of, I want to write a whatever song, you know.
Sure.
You know, based on an artist or based on a group or something. It's a lot of it's just, you know, how we as a band and bandmates have influenced each other and sound and songs that we've created over time, and how that just evolves naturally and progresses in some kind of direction, sonically. And I mean, this song really started with the that kind of descending chord progression
Right.
that it begins with, and kind of is most of the verse sections of the song. And that was I was actually in Sicily shooting the White Lotus in the spring of 2022, and we were living in a town on a cliff above the Mediterranean, very beautiful. I mean, just like very idyllic, magical settings, seeing the rocks in the Mediterranean Sea, and all the history and legend, like that part of the sea is where a lot of the Odyssey took place, the ancient kind of connection. There was a Roman amphitheater, actually two, in that town of Taormina. So this kind of connection to the ancient world, I think, was definitely on my mind, looking out at the sea. And, sometimes a chord progression is just like this rhythmic, hypnotic device to take you into a song and take you into just some musical space where melody can arise. And that's really how this song started.
That's a great way to explain it. I nowhere in my notes do I have the word hypnotic, but this riff is definitely kind of gets you in that mindset. It definitely lures you in. But, I had asked about the influences because it always, kind of strikes me when you get, and you mentioned it, you get your other bandmates together, the other ingredients, and all of a sudden you start writing and this sound comes out, and every single artist or band is unique. And that's why I love doing this show. It's so interesting to me. You play guitar and sing lead on the track. Elijah, is it Amaton on bass?
Hamilton, yeah, he plays bass and does a lot of the harmonies.
Right. And then Olmo, is it Tej on drums?
Ty,
okay. He also produces as well, Elijah,
yeah. He produced our first album and co-produced this album with John Agnello.
And you guys formed in 2006. You got a new record, Diamond Vehicle, that was just released February 21st of this year, 2025. A Still Life is from that album. And it was also co-produced and mixed by John Agnello, who he's worked with everybody. John Cougar Mellencamp, Aerosmith, Scandal, Twisted Sister, Cyndi Lauper, to name a few. How did that collaboration come about?
Well, most of those artists you mentioned, I think he worked more in the engineering side, but as a producer, he's kind of really known for like indie rock stuff, like
it says here Sonic Youth, Dinosaur.
Dinosaur
Okay.
Jr., J Mass's solo stuff, the Amps. I think he's worked. I think Horse Girl was one of his projects. The War on Drugs, and we've had a lot of. We didn't meet, but I've always heard about him from other musicians that he might be a good match for our band, and we have a lot of mutual friends. So ZOPA took like a hiatus because I was living in California for a while. So from 2013 to like 2021, we weren't playing. And then when I moved back to New York, we wrote a bunch of songs right away and wanted to make an album. And first we wanted to make a single. And, John Agnello was always, on my mind as a potential producer. So we reached out to him and we connected. And it was a really good fit because it's interesting because he doesn't play guitar, but knows a lot about how to make really great guitar sounds. Like he has amazing.
He's one of those guys. He's like Rick Rubin. He can't pick up a guitar, but you tell him to dial in a sound on an amp, he can do it.
Yeah, amp, and he knows effects. Effect pedals really, really well, and knows a lot about making a great guitar sound, which is really fun. And he's one of those people who are able to really understand what you're trying to do as a band, and enhance that, and rather than, kind of dictate where he thinks the sound should go. It's very collaborative and really supportive.
Yeah, it feels like that on the recording. There's a looseness to it. It feels like you guys recorded the basic tracks live.
Yeah, we recorded the basic track live, and it was recorded to tape.
And then you dumped everything to Pro Tools to edit later.
Yeah,
mix. Okay.
But it was all recorded onto tape, which we like doing. But yeah, the song we had been playing it live, so it was pretty together.
I noticed that. I went back and found a video from 2023. You guys were playing it live, and that's interesting. Not a lot of bands are doing that anymore because, as we know, the song might change two years later when you go to record it. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how we really solidify the song and just feel really comfortable. And it saves an awful lot of time in the studio. If obviously, if you have kind of a solid idea of how it should go, especially when making those basic tracks, and for the most part, the songs were pretty solid by the time we went in to record them.
I've had a couple of actors and comedians on the show that also have bands in the past, and I want to know, what was your first love? Was it music? Was it film? Was it a little bit of both? Because I know there was a cutoff line for me. It was it was pro wrestling when I was a kid, and then it went to baseball, and then at some point baseball merged with music, and then at some point I couldn't think of anything but music.
Yeah. I mean, as far as just loving things, I mean, it was all of it, movies and music. But, when I finished high school and was thinking about what I wanted to do with my life, I mean, I wasn't playing an instrument at that point. So the idea of being a musician really didn't enter my mind at all. But
oh, wow. Okay.
But I had been reading a lot of plays, and I thought maybe I could go to acting school, which is what I wound up doing after high school. And it was through some of the people I met at acting schools that I got turned on to different types of music, started learning the guitar, and then formed a band. It all happened through people that I met. Actually, mainly two people, both of whom came from music and then went into acting. In New York at that time in the early 80s, especially among the circles that I was in the East Village and downtown, it was a lot of artists exploring lots of different disciplines, like performance art, which some of my peer group, we started getting involved in producing, or experimental theater, punk rock, post-punk rock, experimental film, indie film. A lot of these were artists that kind of moved fluidly in between these disciplines.
And that's really interesting to me, because I know that a lot of the actors I've met, they're methodical, from reading lines to how they're organized with their scenes, etc. And does that come into play with the music at all? Does it help you remember lyrics, for instance, or remember chord patterns? I've never asked someone that acts that also plays music that question.
Maybe.
Okay.
There's a lot of similarities, especially to like live theater. I mean, performing music live and live theater are very similar, because in front of an audience, you have words, you have emotion, you have things specific things that you're trying to get across.
It's live without a net.
Yeah. And the song is the script, singing and playing guitar live is there's a lot to do.
Yes. Yes.
Very hard,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're going between singing, lead, rhythm guitar, lead guitar. There's nowhere to really hide that stuff.
Right.
It's a lot of pressure, and it's very hard.
For sure. Well, before we jump into the track here, for all the listeners, if you don't know, Michael was also a podcaster himself, doing 91 episodes of Talking Sopranos in 2020 and 2021 with your Sopranos co-star, Steve Sciarippa, who played Bobby Bacala on the show. That is awesome, man. Did you enjoy it? Because I never, ever in a million years thought I'd be a podcaster, and 5 years later, here I am.
I felt the same way. I did enjoy it. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
We had to rewatch all the episodes and take really extensive notes. So it was a lot of homework. And then the recording of it was, took hours. And then, the promoting of it, which is really important because, you don't have like a studio behind you. So you have to do it all yourself. And it was kind of relentless. You have to kind of do it every week. So the thing that happened is we agreed to do it before the pandemic. We were going to do it in a studio in New York. And then the pandemic hit, and it wound up being really the only thing I could do for work.
Yeah.
Because I could do it at home. There was no acting, there was nothing happening, So, and for fans who did watch the show or never watched the show, cooped up at home, a lot of people were very appreciative that they had the podcast to distract them for a few hours a week while they were rewatching the show, while they were cooped up at home or recovering from COVID or having COVID or worried about having COVID or
It sounds like it was a distraction for you too, because it definitely was for me. It was probably the greatest thing that could have happened to me at the right time.
Yeah, it was a good distraction, a place to focus my energy, because there wasn't anything going on, and we're cooped up at home. So,
right.
But yeah, it was a lot of people were like, why don't you keep it going? The podcast was a episode by episode rewatch. So when we got to the end of the show, that was the end of the podcast. And people were like, maybe you guys can discuss movies or other shows. And it was like, that's not really what we set out to do. And it's not really, the whole key was that there were other Soprano podcasts, but they weren't made by people who had done the show. So here, you have people who are on the inside talking about it. And, that was the podcast. It wasn't meant to be anything else. So it had a finality, to it.
Yeah, had a start and an ending. Well, it's a really cool idea. I'm glad you did it. Let's jump into the song. It's 6 minutes and 4 seconds. And man, is this thing taking you on a ride. The intro, it's 8 bars of a very 60s-esque garage rock guitar tone playing an ominous single note riff. It's not perfectly in time to when the band hits, but I don't think it's supposed to be. It kind of comes in loose. And again, that gives that live feel we were talking about earlier. The next 8 bars are drums, bass guitar, 2 stereo guitars playing eighth notes. The guitar panned off left being the more playful, ringing out big open chords that take us into verse 1. Crawling on your hands and knees to the lowest parts, desperation proud, but you don't know what's allowed. Through the palace, to the temple, to the station, to the court, to the chamber in your heart, a still life.
That it's really about going through very difficult circumstances in your life, either self-inflicted, usually self-inflicted, based on habits and patterns and mindsets and things like that, and trying to find ways to overcome them. That's really what it's about. At the same time, some of the imagery is related to explorers in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, searching for the mystical city of Shambhala, which is like a Buddhist kingdom of enlightenment, a legendary kingdom. So I'm playing with those two ideas.
Okay. And what was the initial inspiration, if you remember? Like, what was the lightning in a bottle for you that said, yeah, this is the direction for the lyric of this song? Because it's fascinating. I read these lyrics, like I said, 30, 40 times past couple of days, and you literally could have told me kind of anything here where this was going to go. It's very subtle. It's not really direct, I guess. Until you get to the Gobi Desert lines and whatnot, but even then, I really don't know what you were referring to.
And that's okay. It's okay. Even I think okay if I don't know necessarily.
Yeah. We've heard guests on here say, I don't really know.
There's some stories and legends that I've read and heard about that I thought were interesting. There was some connection to where I was at the time, like I said, in Sicily, and kind of connecting to this ancient world that brought some of this to life for me.
Well, verse 1, the instrumentation from the intro continues into verse 1, a little bit more tucked down even than the intro. On the lyric to the court at the end of verse 1, we get multiple voices. It's an ooh vocal stack, panned off left and panned off right. I'm feeling like these ooh vocals, very 60s, like a Beach Boys, Mamas and the Papas type thing that came in here. And it was very surprising when it first came on because it works beautifully, but it was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this.
That's Elijah's skill as someone who can write and perform, harmonies. we did an interview recently where he kind of thought of Kim Deal as one of his influences in terms of being, doing harmonies. We also had, Jane Seabury
Renee Colon as well, right?
and Renee Colon. They were in the next studio when we were recording one day and came in and did some of those along with Elijah, which was just some random, very fortunate, circumstance. But Elijah can sing in a high register and really kind of just has a great knack and ability to create those harmonies and to execute them. But yeah, it does have that kind of a little bit of a 60s Ronettes almost, or Shirelles,
Yeah.
Mamas and Papas, but also definitely the Kim Deal vibe that he's spoken himself about being an influence on him.
I love it. Well, those oohs, they go from To the Court and they end to The Chamber in Your Heart. The backing vocal ends there. And there's this, only happens the first chorus, Michael. There's a very odd snare shuffle fill when you say A Still Life, just that one time. Was that just how it was played live off the floor and you left it? It is very strange, but it's very cool.
That's almost a very spontaneous, instinctual drummer who really allows his creativity to flow, and is never just limited by being part of a rhythm section. He sees himself and I would think is encouraged by the other two of us to use his instrument as another distinctive voice in the band, rather than, it's, a rock trio that, has these three distinctive elements working as one, rather than like a singer-songwriter and a rhythm section. That's not what we do. And his style, a lot of almost approaches often to follow what the singer is doing.
Well, it's very jazz, a jazz mindset of a jazz drummer. They'll play the notes or play in unison with the singer, and that kind of reminded me of the drumming that was going on in that part. Very cool. Right off of verse 1, we get into verse 2, and we're going to get into those lines about the desert now.
Still alive, through the Gobi night. Like they told you, and your book was right. Before you enter, you will purify. Killer of joy, killer of pride, wants to suck out all the good until you die. The still life.
Through the Gobi night, following the pillars of light, like they told you, and your book was right. Before you enter, you will purify. Killer of joy, killer of pride, wants to suck out all the good until you die. A still life.
Yeah, that's again kind of referring to this legendary city of Shambhala and the search for it, and that it's not just a physical destination journey, that it's a journey of transformation. Killer of joy, killer of pride is not really referring to externals, but it's your own mental limitations or things that have held you back, beliefs, attitudes, mindsets, and things, and overcoming those things. That's really what that's about.
Okay. And do you write, do you have a book of lyrics or poems that you have scribbled down? Was this something you had sitting around, or was it written specifically for this track?
This was written for this track. That's not always the case. I've done, other forms of writing, like TV writing and screenwriting and even fiction writing. And I have much more, I'm very, very organized about keeping notes for those things and drafts for those things. But songwriting is a very disorganized process of like scraps of paper and mismatched snatches of sentences here and there. Sometimes it's almost a miracle that anything ever comes together. But somehow, you just know it when it falls into place. It's anything but an exact science. It's very
Yeah.
intuitive and instinctual.
I love what you just said. That's never really been talked about on this show. I'm in the other category. I'm super organized. Everything has to be written out, verse, chorus, all my guitar stuff, if I have notes on that. And then I got guys in my band that are just like, I mean, it's a schizophrenic mess. There's pieces of paper. Hold on, I think I got the lyric in my car. They're running out to their trunk. I'm like, how do you live like this? But we're all different. That's how some people's brain works. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad that they do work like that, because that's how the cream rises to the top for them somehow.
That's how they get there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
It's this constant, to me, like this constant distillation process. So you have this batch of like diverse ingredients.
Yeah.
And the process of writing the song is kind of distilling these down to something essential that keeps, that eventually crystallizes into this whole, rather than the sum of all the parts coming together as a whole, and not being a bunch of parts anymore. And there's something very esoteric about it, I guess, or magical,
Cool. Well, on the first line, through the Gobi, on the second line, when you say through the Gobi night, on the second through the Gobi, it's a unison vocal that happens there. It's up an octave. Following the pillars of light, the next line, those backing vocals come back in, those ooh-oohs. They end after the line, and your book was right. At the very end, on a still life, there's no snare fill like the first time. The drums are playing a straightforward beat here. After a still life, the band continues for one bar, before a full band complete stop for one bar, as the instruments ring out. And then we get a subtle tom hit, dun dun, that brings us in to what I'm calling chorus one. That's another thing with this song. I was like, what parts are what? Do you call this the bridge? So far, 2 verses and a chorus. Am I on the right path, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay. Everything that's happened here, the end when the band stops for one full bar, okay, and then there's another bar of rest before we come in. Was that exactly how it was written? Did you feel those parts out when you were on the floor cutting it? Because you didn't have to have those stops. You could have just went into the next part. So I'm wondering how that came about.
I think that was how we just started playing it when we were rehearsing it and playing it live. That's just the way it just felt natural to do that for this song.
Here I sat, quiet as the sea. What good's nirvana if it's only good for me? Point me to Shambhala, put me right on your map. Maybe I should stay here, hands folded in my lap.
Here I sit, quiet as the sea. What good's nirvana if it's only good for me? What a line. Point me to Shambhala. Put me right on your map. Maybe I should stay here, hands folded in my lap.
Well, that's about Buddhism. Here I sit quiet as the sea. Well, the sea's not a particularly quiet place necessarily, right?
Yeah.
So that's that, although it can be, right? What good's nirvana if it's only good for me? That refers to Mahayana Buddhism. So Mahayana Buddhism is really about the idea of enlightenment, liberation, not just being for oneself, but committing to using whatever enlightenment or liberation you achieve to be a benefit to all other beings so that they may achieve the same thing, rather than you just being an escape route for yourself, right? That's kind of the foundational principles of Mahayana Buddhism. And then point me to Shambhala, put me on the map. That's referring to the city, that we were speaking of. Maybe I should stay here, hands folded in my lap, is basically, is it about searching, or is it about, staying, looking within? Searching outside or looking within?
Did you walk the Santiago? Did you pray to saints and angels?
Hey everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more coming up with Michael Imperioli after a few words from our sponsors.
All right, everybody. I want to give a quick shout out to all the aspiring rock stars listening out there. Now, let me ask you one question. Are you ready to up your musicianship to the next level? Then it's time to start thinking about going to the Alternative Guitar Summit Camp at the Full Moon Resort in Big Indian, New York this summer. Join the extraordinary lineup of guitarists at an all-inclusive retreat set in the serene Catskill Mountains of New York this August. This immersive experience offers master classes, workshops, jam sessions, and gourmet dining, all designed to inspire and elevate your guitar journey. And you can't beat this lineup. Featured instructors include Kurt Rosenwinkel, John Schofield, Kevin Eubanks, Vernon Reed, Mary Halvorson, and Joel Harrison, with a guest appearance by Steve Swallow and artists at large Bill Stewart, Harvey Sorgen, Jerome Harris, and more. Whether you're a seasoned guitarist or an enthusiastic fan, the Alternative Guitar Summit Camp is designed to provide an inspirational and interactive experience, offering the opportunity to truly take a step beyond backstage. Taking place Monday, August 18th through Friday, August 22nd, the event is all-inclusive with a variety of lodging options to suit your preferences, from tent camping to shared rooms and private cabins. There's something for everyone, and it's just 2.5 hours outside of New York City. The event is presented by Music Masters Collective, a nonprofit organization funded by a combination of registration fees, grants, and sponsorships. The organization also accepts scholarship donations, 100% of which are distributed directly to individuals seeking financial aid. Scholarships are available through the Music Master Collective Scholarship Program, ensuring that passionate musicians have the opportunity to participate. Spaces are extremely limited, though, so don't miss this unique opportunity to learn from and interact with some of the most acclaimed improvising guitarists in the world. Register now and be part of the Alternative Guitar Summit Camp community. For more information and to register, visit www.alternativeguitarsummitcamp.com/the500. Once again, that's www.alternativeguitarsummitcamp.com/the500.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/demakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/demakes.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of ShopPay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
The NBA 82 game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FIELDGOAL. That's code FIELDGOAL for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey friends, have you been loving Krista Makes a Podcast? Well, spread the love by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't hesitate to share what you enjoy about the show in an actual written review on Apple Podcasts. Not only does it help more people discover us, but we often read reviews in the wrap segment of the show. It's a quick, cost-free way to support us and takes just a minute of your time. Your reviews mean the world to us and help us keep the podcast thriving. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for being a friend.
And now, back to the show.
When you were in Sicily and the initial idea came to this, did you have any recording equipment with you? Did you have an acoustic guitar, or what'd you have there?
I travel with it's a guitar that my son made, which is like it's basically kind of a Strat body. It's an electric guitar that he made when he was a teenager. And I play it almost like an acoustic guitar, and I record on my phone. If you place the mic right, it almost sounds like an acoustic guitar, although it's not. It's a solid body electric guitar.
Did you use that guitar on this track?
No. On the
okay.
I never use that for performance or recording. On this track I used a Fender Jaguar, which I always use. I actually have two. I have two 66 Jaguars. One that I bought in 2006 when we started the band, and one that I bought about 3 or 4 years ago, just because I was always afraid of something happening to the first one. And
I gotta have a backup.
They're modified. Rick Kelly at Carmine Street Guitars have modified them with humbuckers. But the two Jaguars somehow miraculously were built on the same day in the same factory, California.
Whoa!
I think Fullerton.
That's cool.
September of '66. They're like 25 or 30 serial numbers apart.
That is so awesome. That's neat. Well, after the line, there's a lot going on here in chorus one. After the line, "What Good's Nirvana?" we get another stack of backing vocals panned left and right. But these aren't oohs; these are ahs that happened this time. And let's talk about that a little bit. Again, was that Elijah? Because we changed here, but I don't think oohs would have worked here. They had to be ahs.
That's Elijah. That's his talent and instinct for making beautiful harmonies and background vocals and layer and knowing how to layer them and what key to sing them in and how to sing them. He's really just understands that really well.
I think my confusion of this being the chorus, Michael, was that everything kind of even breaks down further from the verses here. Okay. One of the loudest things that's interesting is the ride bell on the drums. It's really prominent here. And I know that's the way that he's hitting it and executing it. It's not just the way that it's mixed. We get our first true harmony in the song. It's really awesome too. It's on the line, "If it's only good for me." And was that Elijah? That wasn't one of the ladies singing there.
I think that's Elijah.
That's Elijah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Point me to Shambhala. We get a guitar soloing underneath that line. And for the next 4 lines, we get this guitar panned off right that's doing this soloing. I mentioned this a second ago. The whole band gets even quieter here than the verses, which I think is super cool. And this is why I asked, because you just said that on your iPhone, the guitar your son made you has kind of an acoustic quality. Here are the notes for chorus 1. I said, is there an acoustic guitar panned off right or brushes on a drum? I'm hearing some percussive, like, acoustic strumming off to the right there.
I don't think there's acoustic strumming in there. It might be the drums. That little lead thing was just kind of came up in the studio while we were recording. We had not ever rehearsed that or played it live, nor have we done that ever since, because it would require like another guitar player live. But
that's always fun, isn't it? When you get up there and you go, wait, how are we going to execute this part?
Yeah.
There's only one of me.
It was never part of the song, but Elijah kind of said, maybe try something a little bit under there. And I just did that, and we kind of liked it and kept it in there. You know, we always try to, when we're recording, because we're a trio, we never want to do too much in the studio that, you know, when you go see us live, it's like, whoa, this is completely different, or this is missing, or that's missing. So we're very judicious about things like that little lead that, you know, I do play a lead later on in the song that I do play live, because that can work with just the bass and drums. But that little bit there really comes over the chords of the chorus. So you can't do both. So we're pretty judicious, you know, and sparse about doing stuff that can't be reproduced live so much, because you know, you don't want to be like, you know, you hear the album and it's this giant thing with all this going on, and you see us live and it's a completely different sound. So we're very much aware of that.
I love it. Well, on the line, "Maybe I Should Stay Here" at the back end of chorus 1, those backing vocals come back in, and they end after the very next line, "Hands folded in my lap," which there's also the second harmony in the song is there. I believe that's Elijah as well. After chorus 1, the whole band stops, and a lone guitar with, it sounds like there's a phaser on this guitar, is strumming for 3 bars, followed by 6 bars of the band rocking out. The drums are loud on the first 4 bars, particularly on the open hi-hat, but the last 2 bars are quiet to serve as the perfect setup for verse 3. I would call this part like a little musical interlude. I wouldn't even call it like a bridge.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we don't really call it anything specific. There is a MXR Phase 100 on the chorus.
Okay, I heard it.
Just the chorus parts, yes.
Yeah, definitely. I love it.
Yeah, even like writing the song, it's like, I don't really say, okay, this is the first verse. It's just, you just start playing it, and then you know, when we're practicing stuff, we kind of refer more to the second part. And then once the song is fixed, then we'll say, okay, that's the first verse and that's the chorus.
Well, I mean, indie rock, if we want to go back to that term for a second, you know, it really was kind of off the cuff. You know, it wasn't really, it wasn't meant to be poppy and sound, right, you know, verse, chorus, right, and it was avant-garde, and that was the beauty of it.
Right. Yeah, and I find that fun and interesting to play. I mean, that's just what I think, kind of gravitated towards, especially on this album, much more than the first album. You know, there's people that do that really well, obviously, and I think that's what I like about indie rock, is that kind of the latitude to just be true to what the song is, rather than feel there has to be some kind of imposed structure on it.
A still life gathers force, sending you off on another course. With nothing, without a compass, without Sherpa without horse, frozen by the fireside, watching it grow, watching it die, still life.
A still life gathers force, sending you off on another course, with nothing, without a compass, without Sherpa, without horse, frozen by the fireside, watching it grow, watching it die, a still life.
Yeah, and that refers to, maybe some kind of journey of self-discovery, feeling lost, feeling, that it's all for naught, but at the same time, having the courage to persevere.
Well, everything that happens here vocally, aside, I guess, from your lead vocal and the ooze, we get some female vocals and stuff in here. Before the lyric with nothing, it's just a female voice that says with nothing. And then we get a female voice saying a compass before you sing without a compass. And on Sherpa, there's a female voice in unison right there. How did that come about? It really feels off the cuff, like it was the first time they got in front of the mic and did it. It doesn't seem like it's planned out.
That's exactly what happened. That's Jane Sibley and Renee Colon and them just being, creative.
I can feel that. It doesn't sound copy and pasted like pop music. It's definitely has that.
That's exactly right.
That's cool. On the line without horse, we get those ooh, ooh, ooh backing vocals panned left and right. And they end after the line, watching it grow. The last two lines, watching it die and a still life, we get what I'm calling loose harmonies. There's harmonies there, but they're not perfectly lined up. Again, giving it that real feeling. I've talked about this a ton with guests on the show, Michael, and I want to ask you, to my point I just made, I guess working in the studio for so long, you get to be a perfectionist, especially if you start looking at Pro Tools and going, oh, this vocal's not lining up like that one. How do you let stuff like that go? You just it feels good. It's not perfect. It feels good. This is how people have been doing it forever. You look at the Motown back in the 60s and the 70s, it would be loose, but it would work. What makes you, I guess, take another take where you're like, we have to do that again?
If it doesn't sound right, I mean, I don't mean that as being flippant. It's like,
no, not at all.
It's a thing about feel. I think one of the things we kind of try to do on this record sonically was kind of create space, open things up. Part of that's a looseness. Part of that's, just the approach and how to record. It's almost like going from a small frame to a panoramic frame. That's what we were kind of approaching. So there's room. Not everything has to be lined up. Not everything has to be perfectly timed, and I think that helps create that space that we're trying to make.
When I say, and I think the listeners probably know this by now, I'm letting you know, when I say loose, I don't mean sloppy. I don't mean bad. It just means like, wow, this has a push pull feel that if it was lined up, it would not have. It would not hit you. Would not hit you that same way. After a still life, the last lyric here in verse 3, the band plays along for one bar again. Then we get another one bar ring out before we're in chorus 2. Chorus 2 is the same overall instrumentation here as chorus 1, but the lyrics on the front half are different.
So I'll stay 1,000 miles away. What good's Nirvana if it's only for one day? Point me to Shambhala, put me right on your map. Maybe I should stay here, hands folded in my lap.
So I'll stay 1,000 miles away. What good's Nirvana if it's only for one day? Point me to Shambhala. Put me right on your map. Maybe I should stay here, hands folded in my lap.
Part of the reason why it's different is that when I was writing, I didn't think of it as the second chorus. It was just another part. It's also kind of the almost answer to the questions of the beginning. Here I sit quiet as a sea. What's good nirvana? It's only good for me. Now he's saying, well, so I'll stay 1,000 miles, even though I'm 1,000 miles away. I will stay with this and stay on this journey, and it's okay if it's going to take a long time. So it's the answer to the question that's posited in the first chorus. And then the two other lines are the same.
Okay. Well, it sounds also here in chorus 2 like there's a side stick on a snare drum with lots of reverb on it. It's happening.
I wouldn't know.
Okay. It's definitely not in chorus 1. And I'm like, wow,
Really?
it's because I'm listening to this. I'm going and for everybody listening, they're probably sick of me saying this, but I rewind parts sometimes like 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Wow.
Like, why is this chorus different? It's driving me nuts. What is it about this? And finally it's like, what is that side stick? That's what it is. And I'll go back to chorus. So I'm like, yep, it's not there.
It may definitely be that. I mean, I'm not so versed in how he records,
That's fine. I just thought that was really cool. After the line, what good's nirvana? We get those backing vocals pan left and right. We get a harmony on If It's Only for One Day. That guitar noodle we were talking about on the last 4 lines, starting at Point Me to Shambhala, it's playing underneath all of the lyrics. And on the last 2 lines, Maybe I Should Stay Here, we get the vocals again, pan left and right, those backing vocals. And we get a harmony on Hands Folded in My Lap. Then it goes straight into a 5-bar buildup, just guitar for the first 3 bars. Then the drums and bass guitar start creeping in on bar 4 and 5. It sounds like 2 vocals, like you're saying, come on, and then go on.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
That was Jane, I think. No.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of off mic. It was a little tough to discern. And right after you hear those vocal cues, that takes us into a 16-bar guitar solo. Again, very garagey and surfy. Sounds almost like you got a tube screamer on this for this part. Do you recall?
Well, most of the song is reverb and distortion, and then I add for the solo, I add Death by Audio Fuzz War.
Okay. So you got a little fuzz there. It sounds awesome. And then we get into verse 4, which this verse almost acts like in an odd way, it almost becomes the chorus now to me.
Yeah. That's exactly right. We call that the outro.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Still alive. Tell 'em how you left me. Tell 'em how you left me dancing alone. And in a way I miss it. Now if that ain't sick, tell me what is. And in a way I miss it. Now if that ain't sick, tell me what is. Still alive. Still alive. Still alive. Still alive. Still alive. Still
A Still Life. Tell them how you left me. tell them how you left me dancing alone. And in a way I miss it. Now if that ain't sick, tell me what is. And in a way I miss it. Now if that ain't sick, tell me what it is. A still life, a still life, a still life, a still life. A still life, a still life, and one more, a still life.
Yeah, so now it's kind of all this kind of through the verses and choruses, this like romantic and exotic and spiritual and mystical stuff. And at the end of the day, we're left with these very mundane, worldly, you left me dancing alone. It's, there's nothing about the gobi or the horses or the Sherpas or the, the fire. Okay. It's like, somebody left you in a club dancing by yourself. And in a way I miss it. Now, if that ain't sick, tell me what is, which is a very modern statement in a way.
Me dancing alone in a club is frightening, Michael.
Yeah, no, I know. It is frightening.
I don't dance, but I can't imagine being left alone dancing by myself.
Right, exactly. So again, it's almost bringing all this kind of like otherworldly stuff back down to earth, and we're left, it's with the self that we have to work with. And a still life might be the answer.
On the line, tell them how you left me dancing alone. On alone, we get a harmony, and we also get a harmony on and in a way on the next line before you say, I miss it.
I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
I haven't told anybody. This line, and in a way, I miss it. Now, if that ain't sick, tell me what is. I heard someone say that on the subway, and I wrote it down.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I don't know what they were talking about. It was a woman talking to another woman. I don't know what they were talking about, but I heard it, and I was like, just the way she phrased it, and in a way I miss it. Now, if that ain't sick, tell me what is. There was something very lyrical about it, and so I can't take credit for that line, and I don't know who I can credit.
You know what? That line definitely stuck out. That's a really cool line because it paints such a picture. It could be so many things, as you said. You don't know what she would say. It could be the most horrible thing in the world, or it could be innocent. What's really cool on that line, now if that ain't sick, we get these other lyrics that are coming underneath it. Is it saying stop breathing or still breathing the first time?
Still breathing, not breathing. Man made of stone, not made of stone.
Okay, so is it man made of stone?
Man made of stone, not made of stone.
Right. So as now, if that ain't sick, as that line's going, underneath it, stop breathing's happening. On the next line, tell me what it is, not breathing is going. These backing vocals are panned left and right, and are being sung, as I said, under the lead vocal. On the line, and in a way I miss it, that's man made of stone, not made of stone, backing vocal. On the next line, now if that ain't sick, it's the still breathing. Tell me what it is not breathing. And on the first, a still life, it's man made of stone, not made of stone. And the second one, it's still breathing, then it's not breathing, then it's man made of stone, not made of stone. On the last three still lives, the first one is still breathing, the second one is not breathing, and the third one again is man made of stone, not made of stone. These backing vocals, Michael, they're kind of morose. Like the lyric, they could be really uplifting here. I could hear these, whatever, Bon Jovi doing them. It'd be really like, not made of stone. It'd be this triumphant thing. And that's not what's happening here. It's the more I listen to it, I'm like, what is this backing vocal doing to me? And in a great way, it fits the song perfectly. The word I wrote was morose. It just kind of sounds a little sad here.
Yeah, it's kind of, I wouldn't say morose as I would say aspirational, like knowing there's far to go, but in some ways being okay with that. But it's definitely not triumphant, it's, there's work to do. And that's okay. And I love what Elijah does there. I just thought it was the way he created that was really beautiful, and the choices he made there.
The choices are beautiful. The part's beautiful, but again, it's how it was executed to me. Yeah. It's brilliant, because if you would have had this bombastic, huge, gang vocal, it just it wouldn't have worked with the part. It kind of had to be how it is there.
I agree. It wouldn't be consistent with the rest of the vibe for the song. Vibe, for us, that's like everything. Feel and vibe doesn't work. It's.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what you're doing. You're cutting to tape live off the floor. That's everything's about feel. You're giving each other visual cues. You're mouthing cues. Next part, So that's awesome. At the end of verse 4, we get a 6-bar outro. It's just the guitar riff from the top and a nice, classy tremolo chord that's rung out, panned off to the left, that ends the song as we enter bar 7. It's just this clean chord ring out, and that's the end of the tune. The song's 6 minutes and 4 seconds. It doesn't feel like it though.
Oh, that's good.
And I think that's testament to cool songwriting.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's the length is something we just never, like you said, it's indie rock. There's no rules, right? It's just like whatever feels like it works. It's not really a garage thing where you're really kind of going after a certain pop structure, even within the grid of rock and roll. It's just exploring these themes and ideas and giving them the space we feel they need. That's it.
Love it. Well, ZOPA released the album La Dolce Vita in 2021. And as I mentioned earlier, the new album, Diamond Vehicle, is out now. It's been out since February. And Michael recently made your Broadway debut in An Enemy of the People.
Last year.
Which, congratulations. That's very, very cool. And before we break here, if there's anything else you'd like the listeners to know with what's going on with ZOPA or you, let them have it.
Well, ZOPA's going to play some shows in the Northwest, like Seattle and Portland, San Francisco, Sacramento, towards the end of June of this year. So if you follow us, ZOPA Band, or follow me, Real Michael Imperioli, Instagram, we're going to announce that very soon.
Awesome. Well, listen, man, you got one foot in 2 careers that you love. I'm happy for you, and I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us today.
Well, thanks for having it, Chris. This was really fun, and I really appreciate your diligence and thoroughness and willingness to really spend a lot of time. A lot of the interviews, podcasts that I do, we kind of talk about almost everything else but that song. And it's really fun for me to have to think about these things and formulate them and these ideas and express them. And that's because of your, that having that love and that interest to really spend the time. And I really appreciate that. Thank you. It's really fun and different. And it's great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Chris.
That means the world to me that you just made my day. Thank you so much. And thanks for being with us.
Appreciate it.
In a racing heart, I got to go to where you are. I guess I'm going through it all. Oh yeah.
Hey everyone, the song you're hearing is Withdrawal from ZOPA's new album Diamond Vehicle, so make sure you go check that out. And I know they just touched on it a little bit in the episode, but if you live under a rock and you're not familiar with Michael's work as an actor, he's absolutely unbelievable. Just go watch The Sopranos. He's Christopher Moltisanti, which is one of TV's all-time greatest, most iconic roles. Also, make sure you check him out in season 2 of The White Lotus. That was awesome, too. I have so much to talk to Chris about. I could talk about Michael Imperioli all day. So make sure you stick around. We got the rap segment coming right up after a few words from our sponsors.
Out here, there's no one way of doing things. No unwritten rules. And no shortage of adventure. Because out here, the only requirement is having fun. Bank of America invites kids 6 to 18 to golf with us. For a limited time, sign them up for a free 1-year membership, giving them access to discounted tee times at thousands of courses. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/golf with us. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Restrictions apply. See BofA.com/golf with us for complete details. Copyright 2025 Bank of America Corporation.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You might say all kinds of stuff when things go wrong, but these are the words you really need to remember. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. They've got options to fit your unique insurance needs, meaning you can talk to your agent to choose the coverage you need. Have coverage options to protect the things you value most. File a claim right on the State Farm mobile app and even reach a real person when you need to talk to someone. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Don't miss your chance to spring into deals at Lowe's. Right now, get a free 60-volt Toro battery when you purchase a select 60-volt Toro electric mower. Plus, buy 3 19.3-ounce vegetable and herb Bonnie plants for just $10. It's time to give your yard a grow up. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/23. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. Actual plant size and selection varies by location. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Lowe's knows how to help pros save. That's why the new MyLowe's Pro Rewards program lets you unlock exclusive member deals on the things you need every day on the job. Plus, MyLowe's Pro Rewards members can get volume discounts on eligible orders through a quote of $2,000 or more. Join for free today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Exclusions, more terms and restrictions apply. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. The Department of Defense is working with Google to help secure America's digital defense systems, from establishing cloud-based zero-trust solutions to deploying the latest AI technology. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
Hey there, travelers. Kaylee Cuoco here. Sorry to interrupt your music, great artist BT Dubs, but wouldn't you rather be there to hear it live? With Priceline, you can get out of your dreams and into your dream concert. They've got millions of travel deals to get you to that festival, gig, rave, sound bath, or sonic experience you've been dreaming of. Download the Priceline app today, and you can save up to 60% off hotels and up to 50% off flights. So don't just dream about that trip. Book it with Priceline.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Hey everyone, Krista Makes here, and I've got some exciting news. Krista Makes a Podcast is now on Patreon. Your support is what keeps this show going, allowing us to bring you deep dives into amazing songs from incredible artists every week. When you join our Patreon at KristaMakes.com, you'll get instant access to hundreds of episodes of The After Party, our weekly bonus show where producer Chris Fafalius and I talk music history, trivia, tour stories, classic albums, and whatever else comes to mind. Plus, you'll get early ad-free episodes of Krista Makes a Podcast, unedited video versions of each episode, and, of course, a brand new episode of The After Party every single week. If our show brings you a little joy, help us keep it going strong for just a couple bucks a month at KristaMakes.com. Not ready to commit? No problem. You can sign up for a free membership while you decide. Thanks so much, everyone, and I hope to see you all at The After Party.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Krista Makes a Podcast, email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Murder Pop, a Philly-based alt-synth pop trio that melds together the smooth, synth-driven rhythms of the 1980s. Totally dig this stuff. Great, great sound. Murder Pop is Buzzsaw on vocals, guitar, and programming, Phil Tamney on vocals and programming, Matt Gary on bass and guitar, and Frank Caputo, who's the engineer, producer, and did the mixing. Here's a snippet of their song, For Love and Murder.
So often this happens.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
Chris, I gotta say, you crushed it in this episode because as soon as Michael popped up in here, I was so intimidated because I am such an enormous fan of Michael's that I don't know. I thought I played it pretty cool, but I think that maybe you know him more just from breaking this song down because you're not a big TV guy. Michael's one of my favorite actors ever. And I know I've been telling you got to watch Sopranos, but I know that you haven't because you didn't pronounce Bobby Bacala correctly.
Oh, I said back. Yeah. Well, I have watched The Sopranos, not in depth like you have. I think you'd have to be living under a rock, Chris, to not know who Michael Imperioli is.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, I know who he is. The show was absolutely massive. But something I did do before we started rolling was I told him, I said, listen, I'll be happy to talk about your acting career, but we're here for your band. And at the end, as all of you heard, he gave the highest compliment you could give. He's like, man, I go on these interviews and, they want to talk about everything but the band. And I kept my promise, and what a great episode.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. Michael is I would call him a heady actor, and I think that comes through in his music too. So it was cool. I mean, I told him, I listened to his entire podcast along with my latest rewatch of The Sopranos, and I got to hear him talk about his acting career and everything that goes into that, a lot. But it was so cool to hear him talk about music. And I just think you did a great job, man, in getting him to open up about his music as well.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I kind of felt like as we got into it, he was like, "Oh, okay, I see where this is going." Yeah. He just became more and more open. But I did ask him the question about being an actor. I know that you have to be organized. There's no actor. I mean, I imagine some are looser than others, but you have to have your notes and your lines memorized and some kind of method for your acting. You have to have that figured out. And surprisingly, he told me the exact opposite with himself when it comes to music. He said, I'm all over the place. I got scraps of paper in my wallet, in my car, wherever else. And I then gave him the example of not only my band, I've seen it in many bands where this guy's a complete walking train wreck, but somehow the songs are great.
It's funny, Chris. In some ways, I know you're very organized. You have never been late. If we have a podcast scheduled, you've never been late. You're always, and I'm that way kind of in life, but when it comes to writing and certain things, like if you saw the desktop on my my computer right now, it would probably drive you crazy. And I'm kind of that way with songwriting too. A lot of times, it's like Michael said, with this particular song, it was written for the song. A lot of times that's the way I personally work, or I might be like your bandmates where it's scraps of paper or notes in your phone or whatever, kind of random, and maybe you pull some things in, and everyone's different in that way. And it was cool to hear how Michael went about that.
Yeah, he just basically said it just matters how you get there. We all arrive at different times. Something else about this track is I could tell it was cut live off the floor. I had asked him his influences initially, but I still can't put my finger on what this sounds like. I would be onto it. It'd be on the tip of my tongue. Ooh, this kind of sounds like Pavement. And then it would take a left turn, and the Pavement was one of the ones that he did latch onto and say, yeah, they were kind of an influence. But I'm hearing again, 60s garage rock and even psychedelic a little bit within this track.
Right. And they're kind of lumped into that, what people would call post-punk. That might even be what they would describe themselves as, which a lot of time when I hear post-punk, I'm like, what does this term mean? A lot of times I'll think of Fugazi. That's the band I think of, and I don't even know if that is necessarily what people are referring to when they say post-punk. And maybe I even hear a little bit of that in this, but it's a genre that's kind of hard to define, and pulling from 60s influences maybe is the right way to go, and maybe even there is a lot of 90s alternative that might fall under that umbrella.
Yeah, I was also surprised to hear that he didn't really start playing guitar till he got off to college. It wasn't, music was kind of on his radar, but he was, studying at that time. Then of course, became a very sought after and highly successful actor. But it sounds like music was always there for him. He goes off to Sicily, and there he is writing this tune that, we end up talking about. I also thought it was cool that they were out playing the song a couple years ago. He doesn't care. It's like, let's go out and play it. And that makes them tighter as a band, so when they go in the studio, they can record it live.
That is more and more rare. We've talked about it a lot on recent episodes. Well, I will say it's not rare before your first album, but after that, it is kind of rare to play a song live before you've recorded it, and that's cool because things get worked out. And in reference to being in Sicily, that episode, that was season 2 of The White Lotus, how could you not be inspired when you watch that show? I've never been to Sicily or Italy in general, but when you see how beautiful it is, it makes sense that you would be inspired by your surroundings to write music. I think that's so cool. And speaking of being inspired by your surroundings, Chris, I told Michael this after we stopped the recording, but he brought up the fact that there was a line in this song that he heard some women saying on the subway. And I told him, hey, we had someone else have a similar thing in an episode. It was Chris Ballou from Presidents of the United States of America, where in his Peaches episode, he talked about he heard a guy just mumbling to himself, moving to the country, gonna eat me a lot of peaches. And he took this thing that he heard out in the world and brought it into a song. And I just think that that's so cool to have, like Michael said, have your antennas out at all time, because you never know what's going to be inspiring in your songwriting.
Absolutely. Inspiration comes in all forms. And I'll tell you where you can get inspired. Do you know where, Chris?
I do know. That would be the After Party podcast, which is our bonus episode each week.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner, folks. Chris Fafalias.
ChrisDemakes.com is where you can go. That takes you to our Patreon. You'll get a bonus episode of our podcast called The After Party. You can go back in the main feed of Chris Demakes a Podcast. We've released some of these episodes as little teasers along the way. And not only do you get an episode each week, but you'll get a giant back catalog of these evergreen episodes where we talk about everything from music history, our experiences in the world of music, and everything else you could imagine. A lot of people say, they tell me, Chris, that they listen to the After Party. It's actually the pre-party for them each week, because
That's right.
they like what we do over at ChrisDemakes.com.
And as Chris just mentioned, we have such a huge back catalog. I figured out, Chris, from New York to LA and back driving, we now have enough After Party back catalogs to get you there and back on a 46-hour round trip drive.
Hell yeah. And maybe some of our Patreon supporters like George Lucero or Mark Hartman or Steve Jones or Jimmy James or Chad Dietz, maybe they've done this. I like to think that they're all world travelers listening to the After Party.
And something tells me it would take longer than 46 hours for a round trip. Don't fact check me out there. Thank you. Okay. But it's something like that.
Right. And another thing, Chris, that we encourage people to do, if you love the show, ChrisDemakes.com is the most direct way you can help us keep this show going. But also, we love those reviews on Apple Podcasts. And I got one for you, Chris, if you'd like to hear it.
Let's hear it. What do you got, Chris?
This week's review is from Alg Cali. I don't know if that's a combination of algae and Cali or something. I don't know. But Alg Cali said, love these deep dives, gave us 5 stars, and said, I listened to quite a few music podcasts, but none are like this. Chris interviews an artist extensively about one of their hits and then goes piece by piece through the song. I love hearing about how the songs came together and inside information about the band. It's often quite a nostalgia trip because most of the bands are 90s pop punk and alt rock. And thank you for the review. We try to extend beyond those things, but yes, a lot of our episodes are in those worlds. And thank you, Al Cowley, for that very nice review.
Yeah, wasn't Al Cowley the driver of O.J. Simpson's Bronco? Wasn't that his best friend?
Al Cowlings. You think that Al Cowley is a play on Al Cowlings?
Oh, no. I forgot it was Cowlings. I thought it was Al Cowley. Okay, never mind. All right. And I'm sure you're going to leave that in there and not edit it. I love you, Chris.
Of course.
All right. Well, hey, thanks to each and every one of you for continuing to support Chris Makes a Podcast. We appreciate it. And I want to thank this week's guest, Michael Imperioli, for sitting in with us. And we'll see you next week.
Hey, I'm Chris Fafalias, producer of Chris Makes a Podcast, and also host of One Hit Thunder. Each week on the One Hit Thunder podcast, we take a look into a one-hit wonder band or artist to determine if they deserved more success or if they were lucky to even have a hit at all. We've covered When in Rome, Jaquan, Shanice, Yellow, Squirrel Nut Zippers, Jesus Jones, Positive K, Mazzy Star, and hundreds more. With new episodes every Wednesday and special guests from the worlds of music and comedy, we always have nonstop fun, and maybe, if we're lucky, we discover some new favorite music. So if you love great songs and you often find yourself asking, whatever happened to that band? Check out One Hit Thunder wherever you get your podcasts.